Miami, Florida. Known for its pristine beaches, fast cars, and hot nightlife. But here is also a tale of two Floridas. Foreclosures among the highest in the nation, mortgage delinquency rates 3 times the national average. At the height of this jobs crisis, nearly 1 in 4 Miami residents couldn't find work. Not to mention an aging population in need of health care with no one to fill the jobs. As those in the East and Midwest live through winter, this seems like paradise. But it's paradise in peril, not yet paradise lost. And that's why we've come to Miami for our next stop on the 30 Million Jobs Tour for this Wednesday, January 25th. Well, good Wednesday afternoon to you from the Mondrian Hotel here in Miami, Florida. It is obviously stunningly beautiful down here, let alone for January. This area, a stranger in its own way to what is happening throughout the rest of the country, and for that matter, the very state in which it resides, and for that matter, much of America. I am Dylan Radigan. It is a delight to be seeing you on this, the second leg of our 30 Million Jobs Tour. It does mark the beginning of week 2. Thank you so much for being with us. We've got a tremendous amount to cover in this particular hour, including a recap, obviously, of the President's State of the Union address, where, albeit briefly, he addressed the massive housing crisis that is a huge barrier to growth in this country.
Tonight, I'm asking my Attorney General to create a special unit of federal prosecutors and leading state attorney general to expand our investigations into the abuse of lending and packaging of risky mortgages that led to the housing crisis.
Right on, Mr. President. But it is time for more than rhetoric, and for the millions of struggling homeowners in Florida and around the country, the president offered this Band-Aid.
I'm sending this Congress a plan that gives every responsible homeowner the chance to save about $3,000 a year on their mortgage by refinancing at historically low rates.
We need big solutions because this is an enormous crisis that was created in the actual boom years through the corrupted banking system and the reduced lending standards of the past decade. Make no mistake about it. This problem is directly tied to our push for 30 million jobs. In fact, I can think of no single barrier to the functioning of our economy and our prosperity than our failure to resolve housing and our banking system. Remember, for as long as the American dream has existed, it has been homeownership. That has been the store of wealth, and that dream has turned into an utter nightmare for too many in this country, trapping them. In effect, people cannot move now to where the jobs are because they cannot sell their house. Here in Florida, that is almost half of all mortgage holders. Let me repeat that. 50% of the people in Florida with a mortgage are unable to leave their home to find work because they are underwater in their mortgage. That is not only a tragedy, it is double the national average. That is why this, if you will, is a hot spot for the problems in American housing. And what we need to hear from the president and from all of our leaders is a large-scale collaboration with state AGs in a much broader investigation that covers all facets of the mortgage industry and the more than $13 trillion in debt that we all still bear that was manufactured in that bubble. One of the state AGs leading the fight for this investigation is Delaware Attorney General Beau Biden. Also here with us in Miami is Jack McCabe, a nationally recognized real estate analyst who runs the firm McCabe Research and Consulting. And Beau, I'd like to begin with you. What is the domain of law, the authority of law that you or any attorney general has to conduct an investigation into the totality of the $13 trillion that is the debt in the housing market?
Well, look, for me, as a chief law enforcement officer in my state, as the chief prosecutor and as a chief consumer protector, we have a broad jurisdiction. As you know, we've filed a case against MERS, which is the kind of the nerve system of the entire mortgage-backed security process, the mortgage electronic registration system. But we can delve into origination, we can delve into securitization, we can delve into the servicing pieces. Most AGs across the country have the same jurisdictions. Eric Schneiderman in New York, as you know, has the Martin Act, which has broad, arguably the broadest securities jurisdiction. So that's why it's so important, Dylan, as you said, for us to work in a collaborative way and work together and to hold those people who are accountable to feet to the fire.
Yeah, and beyond that, beyond the accountability, if we don't resolve this, we're never going to get to 30 million jobs. Jack, give us a sense of what the liability is of failing to resolve housing in Florida and, for that matter, the country.
Well, we're looking at a sideways economy similar to Japan had for a decade. Right now here in Florida, we're 5 going on 6 years into continued dropping prices, unemployment that's right around 10%, got as high as 12.4%. We have people that can't move for jobs. We have people that can't sell their homes because they don't have the money to come up with to pay the bank off for what they owe from what they can sell it for.
And we spoke yesterday with Elliot Spitzer, among other people, Bo, about why we don't really want to deal with this, why the Republicans don't like to talk about it at all, and why the Democrats, when they do talk about it, do so very cautiously. Quite simply, if we were to reveal the potential fraud in the $13 trillion worth of debt, that could precipitate a meaningful restructuring in the banking apparatus, in the entire banking system. How do you manage the necessary ruthlessness to do this and still have the necessary compassion to know that you don't want to bring the banking system to its knees any more than you want to bring the American homeowner to their knees? 2012 for you, the Sunlight Foundation shining a light on the super spending this election cycle. They are our guests this hour, and the spending is no better recruiting vehicle for getting money out. So have at it, boys. Plus, what if your car's speedometer reads 40 miles per hour, even when you're stopped at a red light? You'd probably get your gauges checked, wouldn't you? Well, we're connecting the dots on what that has to do with 30 million jobs coming up. Do stay with us as we continue from South Florida. Coming up here, another broken gauge, maybe the most significant one, an electoral system that does not measure the true intent of the electorate. The congressman who's out to change that, with us here next. Well, with all the talk of GDP, unemployment, and the other outdated gauges that we are using to grade the state of our nation, our next guest wants to focus on the ultimate out-of-whack measuring tool, our electoral and governing systems. The election machine, as we all know, is supposed to, in a democracy, gauge how well this country is doing and what the intentions are of the voters. And yet it is being manipulated by gerrymandered electoral districts, closed primary systems, and the power to prevent true debate being controlled almost entirely by money, most of it exchanged in secret. Representative Ted Deutsch says it has never been more evident that the system and the electoral and governing process is broken, and that a constitutional amendment, the 28th, is the only way to keep the super rich and the corporations of this world from completely drowning out the voice of the people in our electoral process. We call it Auction 2012 around here. And joining us now is Florida Congressman Ted Deutsch, who has introduced his own amendment declaring, indeed, that corporations are not people. And it's a pleasure to see you in person.
Thanks. Great to be here, Doug.
Let's get cut to the chase. Your amendment effectively overturns Citizens United,
right,
and says corporations are not people, and then says that nonprofit money, whether it's union money, Koch brothers money, NRA money, Sierra Club money, should be allowed, but should be regulated by Congress. That raises a lot of skepticism from people like me and others. Explain to me why we should tolerate nonprofit union Koch brothers money any more than we should tolerate corporate money.
Thanks. Well, first, let's talk about what it does do. It says that corporations aren't people and that corporations can be regulated by the people through Congress. But it also specifically says that for-profit corporations who are formed for no purpose other than commercial purposes, everything they do is commercial in nature, should not be allowed to spend their money in the political system.
Well, today from Miami, we've been taking a closer look at this paradise, and it is indeed paradise in peril. but not yet paradise lost. The ugly picture of the foreclosure crisis in this state set against the beautiful backdrop that is available in this state. It reveals a tale of two different Floridas, and millions pouring into this state demonstrates the magnitude of the challenge we face in trying to fix it when you look at the political stakes. Tomorrow, however, away from those two issues, we will go back to our basic narrative. Every problem, remember, is a potential job. And here in Florida, a huge issue is health care for an aging American population that loves to retire to Florida. We'll talk to former DNC Chair Howard Dean about how the fee-for-service model must change and show you one career option with far more jobs than qualified people to fill them. We hope we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. From Miami, Hardball with Chris Matthews starts right now.